We may live over 5,000 miles from Lincoln Financial Field, but what we lack in proximity, we make up for in film study, and each and every week, we'll be bringing you in-depth film breakdowns from across the pond and the Sooner State, except for this week, because it's a mailbag. Welcome to On the Shane Page. I'm your host, Shane Haff. You can follow me on Twitter at ShaneHaffNFL, and I'm joined by BGN's own film guru, Johnny Page. Give him a follow on Twitter at JohnnyPage9. Johnny, how are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I feel like this is a strange time in like content world because it can feel quiet, but there's a lot behind the scenes. Like I'm starting building draft balls. We've actually got a question about that, which is quite good about drafts. So we'll get into that. I'm trying to cover Eagles free agency, but I'm also trying to look at what other teams are doing free agency wise. So I'm trying to read those like 101 free agent lists and trying to figure out who the Eagles might go after. There's like a lot of behind the scenes stuff, isn't there? It's like quiet, but it feels a little bit like calm before the storm. Like all of a sudden 2 weeks away and then like the next 6 weeks of content are really big. So it's quite a nice time. It's a little bit calmer, but there's a lot going on behind the scenes. But yes, I am well. How about yourself? Well, we think Shane may not be well. So yeah, if you hear Shane coughing and spluttering, that's life.
Yeah, I'll try to mute the mic. I'm pretty sure I have COVID, so my wife's been sick for a few days and she's on the upswing now, but has COVID. And I started feeling bad last night and I'm drugged up right now and we're going to try to record a podcast. So hopefully you don't hear me clearing my throat and blowing my nose too frequently. But if you do, just know I'm podcasting through the pain for all of our listeners. So
there you go. Dedication.
I was questionable, but got that full participant designation at the last practice and here we go.
Right. And you're going to put some of this on the public feed as well, aren't you? So for those listening on the public feed, we do have about 20 questions every month. We obviously can't answer every single one, but we get some really good ones. So if you like this kind of a little bit more relaxed, I would say, probably a bit more honest. If you like this kind of relaxed kind of format, then check out the Patreon, please. Yeah, good fun. Really good fun over there. Questions are always really good. So apologies if we don't get to them all, but we'll try and get to as many as we can every time.
Yeah, we are drawing from our Patreon mailbag, and it does always make me laugh that people can submit questions all month, and I'll usually put out a final plea for questions like the Sunday or Monday before we record. And then inevitably, once I finalize the question list and send it to you, like the morning of the podcast, we'll get like 3 new questions. So if you are a latecomer, it's probably going to be on the March mailbag, but I digress. Let's dive in. The first question comes from a special brew, and he asked, what are the financial ramifications of Cam Jurgens or Landon Dickerson retiring this offseason? Would it be worth holding them on the roster or IR just to spread out cap hits? I'm sure this wouldn't bother them. So obviously we have the news now that Dickerson is going to return for 2026. And this question was asked a little earlier in February, but I decided to go ahead and break this one down just for an example of a contract. And those of you that are in Patreon, we had obviously the salary cap masterclass with Jimbo that posted last week. And if you're on the public feed, again, that's a great episode to go check out in the Patreon, but went through a lot of cap stuff. And Dickerson signed a 4-year, $84 million contract in 2024. And if you're watching and you want to pull up Spot Track to follow along with the numbers, that might be helpful here. But 4 years, $84 million in 2024 with $28.9 million guaranteed and a $19.9 million signing bonus. And then Jimbo went into this a lot last week, but Howie often structures these deals as a small base salary and then option bonuses for each year that guarantee basically at the beginning of the season. And it's a way to spread out that cap hit. So on the third day of the 2025 league year, which would have been like March 14th, 2025, he got a $10 million guarantee for the 2026 season. Then on the third day of the 2026 season, which will be in a couple of weeks, the rest of his salary, which is $8.85 million, fully guaranteed. So he would have had a full guarantee of $18.85 million in 2026. Now, technically, teams can attempt to recover the portions of signing bonus money if a player retires voluntarily mid-contract. So you sign a 5-year deal with a big signing bonus, you get paid it up front, you retire 2 years later. A team could technically try to claw back, 3/5 of that signing bonus. They usually don't, and the Eagles almost certainly wouldn't. especially if it was medically related, his reasons for retirement. So all that to say, if he retired this offseason, he would have had $27.5 million in dead money, and that would have accelerated onto the 2026 cap. However, guaranteed salary stuff that I mentioned wouldn't come into effect if he didn't play games. Those are still game checks. And so basically they wouldn't be on the hook for that. They would be on the hook only for the signing bonus from 2025 that was prorated and the 2025 option bonus, which was prorated. So basically they would have had 17.5 million in dead cap, not the 27.5 that Spot Track lists. They're listing that $10 million guarantee that wouldn't actually be dead money if he were to retire. And so all that to say, it would cost him 17.5 million in dead cap if he retired. And they could have said, hey, how about you wait to file that paperwork until after June 1st, which would allow them to kick 12 million of that into 2027. So had he retired, that's what they would have done. He would have cost the Eagles $5.5 million in 2026 and 12 million in 2027. However, none of that's going to happen. So it's an interesting salary cap exercise. It might be on the table again next year. And again, you can go look at Spot Track to see kind of where those numbers came from. You can watch that video with Jimbo. He goes into a lot of different stuff too, but that's basically what would have happened with Juergens. With Dickerson. And I didn't look into Juergens because, again, I didn't want to get too far into too many hypotheticals.
I feel like we've got a lot of questions. I think Juergens seems unlikely to retire, doesn't he? Dickerson's earned more in his career. Sounds like Dickerson's back, but you still never know. Could it be like a summer retirement? He comes back and his body just doesn't work? I don't think it's impossible. I think it's interesting that you said something that, and I'm not a cap guy, as many people know, but I didn't realize about like the post-June 1st retirement stuff. Like that's quite interesting. So I guess that's similar to like how the team has the option to sort of release someone early. They can, I guess, ask you when you retire, I guess, can't you, to do you a favor, I guess. So yeah, I didn't realize that. So that's quite interesting. You can like, but I guess you still need a bit of player buy-in because technically a player can retire when he wants, can't he? So you need like a little bit of player buy-in, I'm guessing. You need to almost ask them to do you a favor. Is that true? Or can you just designate anyone as a...
No, they would have to... They could inform you that they're going to retire and you could be like, hey, let's just wait till after June 1st to file that paperwork. And there's no reason for the player not to unless they just wanted to spite an organization. It doesn't cost them anything.
I don't think it's guaranteed Dickerson's back. I think he's going to come back, obviously, in training camp. I think we'll see. Let's see how the body moves. That'll be my sort of... I don't think it's like guaranteed that he has... or that he'll play another snap for the Eagles. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah. All right, let's keep rolling. Question 2 comes from Badger. It said, with Vic Fangio openly contemplating retirement, does it change which long-term contracts get done sooner rather than later? Jalen Carter, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean seem scheme. I think that was supposed to say don't seem scheme dependent.
Yeah.
But I think I typed that wrong. But what about Jordan Davis / Nakobe Dean? So what are your thoughts on how Vic Fangio's flirtation with retirement impacts that stuff?
I mean, it sounds like more than a flirtation, doesn't it? It does sound like maybe a year left, which is quite interesting, I think, for roster building. My gut is that the Eagles are in with this Fangio scheme now. Like, for better or worse, I think they're probably going to tie into it. So if Fangio goes, I would expect them to promote from within. But let's see how that happens. That's a year away. So let's just assume, hypothetically, the scheme could be anything next year, right? Let's just say hypothetical. Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, doesn't matter. Obviously, just elite players doesn't matter. Jalen Carter doesn't matter. Totally awesome scheme fit for anyone when he's good, obviously. I think the other two to mention, and to be fair, we've got smart listeners, Badger's correct. I think Jordan Davis is the interesting one. Doesn't mean I wouldn't pay him because, Fangio might retire. There's a lot of too high split safety defensive coordinators in the league right now. So he fits a lot of stuff. However, if you were going to go in for like a Jim Schwartz style, we always want to be +1 in the box. I don't think Jordan Davis is as important because you're more than one gapping and you don't need the size. Personally, that doesn't bother me. I think the Kobe Dean is similar. I think the Kobe Dean could probably be better in another scheme outside the Fangio's, in all honesty. I think some more creative coordinators will blitz him more. But for me, he's not a scheme issue. He's a money and draft capital and Campbell problem. So I feel like Dean, if he goes, which I assume he will, I did see an interview the other day saying he wants to be back, and who knows, maybe Fangio gets his way. But my guess is he goes, and I would say it's not because of the scheme, it's because of cap reasons. But I think it's a good question. I'm trying to think of like other young players. He's only asked those 5, whether there's anyone else that stands out. But I think I get the premise. I wouldn't worry too much about re-signing someone for future scheme, in all honesty. It wouldn't be top of my priority list right now anyway.
Yeah, I think the interesting point in all of that is the guy you mentioned, and that's Jim Schwartz, because the Eagles have basically sought the Fangio scheme ever since Jim Schwartz left. And Jim Schwartz is going to be available next year. And it wouldn't shock me if the Eagles looked into that, in which case, maybe a guy like Jordan Davis isn't as important because you are +1 in the box. And so I think that one's the interesting one. I think Dean's just gone because of money. I think Carter, Q, and DeJean are all staying. Jordan Davis is the interesting one. And if you were eyeing Jim Schwartz, he maybe becomes less important. So that's an interesting one to see how it plays out. So, okay, let's go to question number 3. This one also comes from a special brew. He asked, who are some tight end and wide receiver targets that could follow our new coaching staff from their old team?
Should we just say the same name that everyone else has said on every podcast?
Romeo Doubs?
Yeah, Romeo Doubs.
Yeah.
Romeo Dobbs. And what about Romeo Dobbs? I feel like, everyone. Have you got any other names in particular? I haven't scoured the sort of the free agent market. Have you got any other names in particular? Is KJ Osborne around this year? People seem to have referenced him. But I don't know if that's a former actual he's played with them or just scheme fit.
Yeah, I was going to say there's the potential you could go after a guy like Sterling Shepard.
Yeah.
He's from Tampa Bay. Cade Otton, if you wanted a tight end.
Yeah.
To me, the two most interesting are Romeo Doubs and Cade Otton.
Yeah, there's not many in particular, is there? Because the way the Green Bay's offense structured, I think most of them are hanging around. I've not looked into any of the cap here stuff at all, by the way. So please don't take this as this is going to happen. I do wonder what happens to Luke Musgrave. The Packers, I don't know what his contract's like. I don't know if it's possible to consider a trade, but the Packers obviously drafted him with a second round pick, and third, and he was meant to be the guy. And then Tucker Kraft just sort of took over that completely. And I know Tucker Kraft got injured last year, so they may not want to lose him. But maybe not this year, but maybe future years. We'll see how high they are on Musgrave, because maybe the Packers are willing to move him because the Kraft's so good. Musgrave didn't really do it last year. So maybe that's
he said
one
it
for
into the final year of his rookie deal.
Yeah. So maybe that's one that again, speculating trades is impossible. I'm talking a 1% chance, but he's a name I'd be interested with because I know Packers fans really, really raved about him. And then he just didn't really ever deliver. And to be honest, I feel a little bit like that with loads of the Packers receivers because they got such a big receiving core. Obviously, Matthew Golden, Christian Watson are their guys. You got Jaden Reed, who's the other guy that the Packers have got a receiver that's not Romeo Doubs, the other guy.
Christian Watson,
for example. Yeah, and they drafted Savion Williams late last year. Packers have got such a big receiving core, similar to the tight end. Maybe you could splash a late round pick for one of them if you want to teach the sort of them to be in the receiver room. But Romeo Doubs feels like the obvious one. I think all new coaches want players at each position they've played with because it's easier to teach. Sometimes it's less about how good they are and more about what they can do in the meeting rooms and stuff. So it wouldn't be a surprise at all if they added one or two.
Yeah. All right. Question 4 comes from Roosevelt Franklin.
It's a great question, number 4.
Was the Kevin Patullo offense a poorly run version of the Sirianni offense or a low-budget attempt to reinvent the Shanahan-McVay style of offense that failed?
What would you go
miserably?
percentage-wise on this one? I'm intrigued.
I mean, I don't even know if we know what the Sirianni offense is. He's been with the Eagles for 6 years now.
Safety first.
5 years now, and I don't even know what it is because he called plays for 4 weeks.
Yeah, safety first, outside the numbers, RPOs coming from the Colts, maybe. Could you argue a bit more?
Yeah. I can say with certainty it wasn't even close to a Shanahan or McVay.
That's what I was going to say.
So.
I think what they tried to do was steal a couple of things. I joke about the 13 personnel because of the Rams, but I think it's sort of true. I think they were look at what the Rams are doing. Look at the condensed formation stuff. So there was a little bit of stealing the Shanahan McVay stuff. Let's do a little bit more outside zone, a little bit. Let's do a little bit of under center, outside zone. So some of it was Shanahan McVay, but in all honesty, I think it was just a crap system. I had this discussion with someone else. It was a really good comment I had on the Bleeding Green article the other day when I can't remember exactly how someone phrased it, but they were like, Kellen Moore's offense was also a bit inconsistent with the Eagles, but sequencing was good. Do we think Kevin Patullo's problem was sequencing, or was the problem just not very good? And I was like, I don't know how to like say this nicely, but you can't sequence like crap plays.
Yeah.
Like sequencing relies on you having some plays that work because then you can build off them. And yes, you can sequence without being good. Shanahan does this. You might run a play specifically to get to something else. But like, I wouldn't look at Kevin Patullo and go, sequencing was the like, I don't think he was very good at it, but the plays just weren't very good. They weren't coached very well. They didn't execute them very well. So I just don't think it was a very good system. I think they had like lots of different ideas and ended up almost having like no identity. And we joked about it, but the way they flip-flop from one week being shotgun heavy up, we're going to run like 10 RPOs. Then next week we're 50% under center. And then following week, we're going to go intermediate mid of the field. It was almost like whack-a-mole. Let's take all this cool stuff around the league and try and do it all without actually having like any way of sort of sticking to something. You have to have like your fallback option. You have to have like, this is what we want to do. So yeah, I don't know. I would say it's mainly just a crap system than it was like Shanahan light.
Yeah, they just tried to grab little pieces of things that worked around the league without having any idea why they worked or how you build a system around it.
And just one final thing, because then I never want to talk about Kevin Patullo ever again. Someone moaned at me on Twitter because I took the piss out of the Dolphins head coach or whatever, saying like, you're being mean on Patullo now. I was like, I'm not mean to Patullo. The quote the Dolphins guy just gave was absolute nonsense. And if I was a Dolphins fan, that would do I mean Dolphins? I do mean Dolphins, don't I?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was it?
Jeff Hafley
saying, I don't care. Like, you can say everything he wants. He's right. He won a Super Bowl. Like, don't get me wrong. That's fine. But it was when he said what he did with that offense. I was like, what, get fired after 1 year and completely
drove it right
season?
Off a cliff and it crashed and burned.
Yeah, so absolute nonsense. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. All right, next question, Johnny. Snake draft the top sports movies of all time, and we each take 4 picks. So
4 picks.
This is interesting because I don't know. I don't even know if we've seen some of the same sports movies.
No, we definitely haven't. I'm not a sports. I used to be a big movie guy. I don't think any of the films I'm going to mention people are going to like.
Okay.
I feel like they're not going to be what they call sports movies, but I've decided that I don't care. I'm going to say them anyway.
All right.
So,
do you want first pick or do you want me to pick first or do you care?
I've got a list up now and now I'm like, can I say any of these? You go first because you're not going to pick mine, so I already don't care.
Okay, I'll take Rocky then. I've got to play to my.
That was going to be one of mine.
I've got to play to my Philly audience. And
What's
say
one
Rocky.
of mine? But that's one of the only things that I have seen like every film of. All right, I should have gone first then. Anyway.
All right, you take 2 now.
So this is going to really annoy everyone because it's not a sports film, but one of my favorite films of all time is Dodgeball with Vince Vaughn. It's just a terrible film.
I'll allow it.
Unbelievably funny. It came out 22 years ago. Which is England is like, I don't know if you have the same rankings for age, would never get published these days. Definitely non-PC. Like it's cancelled instantly. But Dodgeball is iconic. So Dodgeball is one of my favorite films ever.
Okay. What's your next one?
Oh, it's snakes. So I go, crap. I will go, and I feel like is this controversial? Because I was going to have it later on. I would go with one that you may not have seen called Foxcatcher, which I don't know if you've ever heard of Foxcatcher. It has got Steve Carell and what's his name, the big brute of a guy. Oh my goodness, what's his name? Channing Tatum. That's it. And it's about like this really random like wrestling family. And me and my wife went to watch it in the cinema, and she came out like that was the worst film I've ever seen. And I was like, I loved it. It's very gritty. It's not really a sports movie, but there is some wrestling in there. There's some wrestling scenes. It is all about wrestlers. Yeah, if you haven't seen Foxcatcher, let me know what you think if you get a chance to watch it, because I loved it. My wife hated it.
I have not seen it, but I love that your first 2 movies, you were like, they're not really sports movies.
I don't know. Like people are going to want me to say like Draft Day. I don't know, which is terrible, but also quite funny.
Yeah. Okay. I will give me a movie that I'm sure you've never seen. Hoosiers. Have you ever seen Hoosiers?
No.
All right. It's like, it's a high school basketball movie. Very good movie. Is a sports movie, by the way. Maybe not related to football, but I'll take Hoosiers. And then give me Remember the Titans.
Yeah, that's actually American football, isn't it, as well? So people were like, you, well done, you're really popular. I would go for, and I've got a list here of ones I'd consider, and I was like, what can I say? So seeing as I'm British, let's give you a British one. Bend It Like Beckham, an old comedy film, like a terrible film it's just really funny. Again, is it really? There's no way anyone American has seen it, but I'm guessing you've heard of David Beckham.
Heard of it. I've heard of the movie.
Oh, there you go. I didn't think you'd even heard of it. And I got one more, right?
Yes.
I've got one more. I'm going to go, seeing as you took Rocky, I'll take the younger brother of Rocky. I'll take Creed with Michael B. Jordan. Big fan of Creed. And seeing as you stole Rocky, I'll take a boxing film.
Okay.
I feel like boxing films are always the best. There's others as well that are really good. The Fighter, bonus one. Another good boxing film. But there you go.
All right. I'll take Miracle for my final one. In the spirit of the Olympics, give me Miracle.
See, that really creeped me out, like that question. Like I was getting annoyed. And then also I was going to say, have you ever read about this? We're going off topic. This is Mailbag, screw it. Have you ever read The Blind Side?
I haven't read it, no.
So have you heard about the whole controversy around it?
Yeah.
So I love the book. I read the book and I was like, this is brilliant. Love the film. And then there was a court proceeding, wasn't there? And he was actually, it's all lies. And he was tricked. And I was like, oh my God, never trust anything.
That's why I took that movie off of the list.
Yes,
it would have been up there for me.
Me too. It was up there. It's a mad story. So if anyone's seen The Blind Side and doesn't realize it, Google the lawsuit and stuff. It's depressing as hell. I only read that quite recently. I'm not really I did sort of want to say Draft Day. Can I tell you a funny story about Draft Day? So when Draft Day came, so this is also going to be a British reference. So if you're not British, just shut up and you have no idea what I'm talking about. But basically the guy in charge of the British coverage of the UK is called Neil Reynolds. So shout out Neil Reynolds. Been around for a long time. If you Google Neil Reynolds, if you don't live in America. So when Draft Day came out, they entered a lottery. It was a big deal in the UK apparently. And you could ask to win tickets. And I somehow won. I never win a draw. So I went down to a cinema. I had a nice day. I met Neil Reynolds, got my photo with him. There was a little speech with him and some former players. And then we watched Draft Day in a nice screening with a couple of NFL players. They were ex-players. Can't remember who they were. It's 12 years ago. They weren't particularly famous. This is before it really took off in the UK, I'd say, American football. So I saw Draft Day properly and met Neil Reynolds. If you're British and you're listening, you'll be like, oh, cool. He met Neil Reynolds. Or you'll think Neil Reynolds is a loser. But either way, he's very famous in the UK NFL coverage. So there you go.
I used to watch Draft Day every year on the day of the first round of the NFL draft just to get hyped up. Terribly unrealistic movie, but always fun. The most unrealistic thing in Draft Day is that the Cleveland Browns are a competent organization. But
yeah,
I always just like to envision that GM as Howie Roseman's give me all your first round picks. So yeah, that's a good one. Friday Night Lights, The Longest Yard.
Right. Friday Night Lights,
We Are Marshall.
Because Friday Night Lights is a series, right? But I actually have watched.
Well, there's a movie too.
Is there?
Yeah. That's quite different from the...
Not the same characters, I'm guessing. No, I mean, the Friday Night series is unbelievable. I used to watch that as a teenager over here.
Yeah. The movie's worth watching, too.
Coach Taylor, one of my favorite actors, whatever his name is. Love him. Right, we should move on. Too long.
Clear Eyes, Full Hearts, Can't Lose.
Yeah, absolute classic. And on Tim Riggins, whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Not seen
you should check out the movie. It's not related, but check it out.
I will. Right, we spent too long on sports films.
We did. So that is going to do it for the preview of our Patreon mailbag. If you guys enjoyed stuff like this, again, head over to the Patreon at patreon.com/Eagles Film Room. We've still got 15 questions to get through, so those will be up in the Patreon along with a lot of other stuff. So come check it out and hang out with us in Discord. I think you guys will like it. So you can head over and do that. We're going to hop over and finish our recording, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Support for the Fans First Sports Network comes from Hypernatural Style. Men's Journal calls it the best men's polo shirt of 2024. Hypernatural offers polos, tees, and button-ups that deliver unmatched comfort and style. Hypernatural is a new generation of clean bio-performance clothing that reduces impact on the planet as well as your own health. Hypernatural created the first ever shirts made from jade stone and crab shells. Supreme natural comfort and cooling performance without harmful chemicals and plastic polyester. Visit hypernaturalstyle.com and receive 20% off at checkout using promo code FFSN. That's hypernaturalstyle.com using FFSN. Thank you for your support.